here we are then, lovely Gary. How are you on this fine
I'm
morning?
okay.
It feels like a Mercury retrograde today with all of these issues we've been having, technical issues. We were late starting, but I have coffee, you have tea, we have some lovely crafty things in front of us. The world is fine. The world
is still fine. Yeah, no, it is fine. It's really good. And in our part of the northern hemisphere, I can feel spring coming through. I've seen bulbs coming up in the garden. The sky is a bit clearer during the day. Doesn't feel the light's a lot better. I don't know about you, but when you get the nice light, that nice brighter light in the sky, God, I feel more energized. So much more energized.
I absolutely do. It makes a big difference. You know, I came back, I went to the gym the other day because I started going back to the gym, and I came back and I saw, like you say, it was one of those beautiful mornings, blue sky and the sun. It just makes you feel so much better. And I know we're going to get some great days and we're going to get some rain. Yeah. But as you say, spring is on the way. We're in February already. It's on the way. So yeah, it's definitely all feeling better. But hello, lovely YouTuber, by the way, if you are. We have got somebody who's watching us live, I think. But if you're watching us live or you're watching us on the replay, thank you so much for joining us here on Monkey Motivation Tea Time Tutorial. I'll explain it more in a moment. First thing to say is smash those buttons down below. Which ones are we talking about? The likes, the hit, the subscribes, the notification bells, ding dong bell, button. Just do it all. It helps us get the message. Sorry, Gary.
Even a comment. If you want to go to a comment, maybe sort of up there somewhere.
Yes.
Write a little comment in.
Yeah, we love the little comments. We do. So please do join us and regularly get our content and help us to get the word out there by liking as well. That would be wonderful. So yes, those are all the buttons we'd like to press, but we do appreciate you being here. So thank you very much. My name is Rachel. This is Gary, and Gary is my teacher. I am the student. I run a company called CraftyMonkies, and if you go over to the website, which of course details are going to be below, you will find all sorts of live classes for you to join in, but all sorts of videos that you can rent as well, and content. And that is whether you are a sewer or whether you are into your mixed media textiles. Gary is an amazing teacher with us, and he's got some great classes over there. But here on a Friday, we always do our tea time tutorials, and sometimes we go live, but we always make sure that we put out something every Friday. And our tea time tutorial, although because we generally have tea, although today I have coffee, but yeah, tea or coffee will do. And then we have a little tutorial, and we have a play, and we have a craft. Sometimes it's sewing, sometimes it is painting. Today is collaging, or how do we say it, Gary?
Chigiri.
Is there a bit on the end, or is it just chigiri?
Chigiri E. Because it's like a hyphen E. Chigiri E.
We're still doing it. If anybody's watched our social media, you'll see a little reel out where Gary was going, what's it called? Chigiri, eh? Chiriri. Anyway, collage, basically. Collage, that's what we're doing today, which is why we have magazines and things in front of us. But we also start as well with a bit of mindfulness. I just kind of throw out a quote at Gary or pick up on something that I felt this week, and then we talk about that just for a few moments. And this is the whole idea of this, is it's a meditative process. This tutorial is designed to help you to stop, to take some solace in yourself, calm down, have some time for yourself, have a little play, but also just have a little pause for thought as well. So I will put the time codes below. Obviously, if you're watching live, you're gonna have to watch live with us, but if you're watching it afterwards, you can skip straight to the crafting. But if you want to stay with us for a little bit of mindfulness, then please do. So here we go. They've either gone or they've stayed. Hello, if you're still here. So Gary, normally I throw out a quote, and I did see a great quote this week. It's very simple. I can't remember who it was from, but it said, the biggest mistake is not admitting the mistake. Now, that is a very simple quote, but I think it's this whole thing of not apologizing for things that you have done or not admitting to your mistakes. And that is worse than what you do if you make a mistake or you need to apologize for something, isn't it? And I think it is amazing. And I read another quote as well about how an apology, you know, just to say to someone, I'm really sorry for what I did to you, is so comforting for the other person's soul. You give someone such comfort from doing that if you can, you know, bring yourself to apologize or admit your mistake. So I just thought that was a lovely few words to sort of really think about, because we all make mistakes. and we all do things that we are sorry for, but you need to say that to the other person. Admit the mistake or apologize. It's such a big
one.
deal.
You need to recognize there is a mistake. That's the first step forward. That if you've made a mistake, it's recognizing it in yourself. That I've made a mistake, because there is that saying, you know, the best learning is from your mistakes. So you can only learn if you see that you've made a mistake. But again, doing that, sort of admitting you've made a mistake, is also a battle with your ego, because your ego won't necessarily want you to make a mistake or admit you've made a mistake, and will make an excuse that it's somebody else's fault or it's circumstances that's why the mistake happened. So you need to get over that. So if you're, you know, you find yourself sort of like, I'm not going to admit to that, or I you know, well, I did that anyway. Yeah, that is the ego. That's your ego sort of like not letting you actually say, gosh, I shouldn't have done that. Or, you know, and one of the, came to mind on that, making mistakes. I can remember it was quite a few years ago, I was living at my other house, and parking was an issue. Oh my God, it was such an issue. And I managed, a parking space had come available outside my house. So I've managed just to pull in. I'd had a bit of a lot on my mind. It was a busy day, and I'm always a busy person, and I had a lot on my mind, and I parked up there, and just next door but one, a new neighbor, not an established, a neighbor that had just moved in, came over to me as I'm just getting out. Oh, would you mind? Could you move your car, please? Because I've got a delivery coming, like a delivery van coming, blah, blah, blah. And with that, I just like snapped. And I just went, no, I won't. I need, this is my parking space, and I'm going to say it like that. Anyway, I went in the house.
Like that, Gary.
I went in the house, and I just like, I thought to myself, and I shut the door behind me. I think, oh my God, why did you just do that? Why did you? It's not the guy's fault that he wants, you know, that you've had a bit of a bad morning or a busy morning. That the parking is an issue in the road. He's just moved in. He's got a delivery van coming, probably with bits for his new house to come along, and you aren't being neighbourly enough to say, yes, of course, I'll find somewhere else to park, like that. So do you know? I did have to fight an ego. There was a battle of an egos there, like, oh, no one's going to take my parking spaces, like that. I had to fight that. I opened the door. I went next door but one, knocked on his door. He sheepishly came to the door, and I said, I am so sorry. I said, I don't know why I did that. I said, I really apologize. Yeah. And I just said, you just caught me at a bad moment, and I shouldn't have said that to you. Of course I'll move the car. Let me move my car, and let's put our rubbish bins in the road. And so that when the van comes, no one else has nicked that space. And that's what I did. I felt so much better for it, because if I had taken that, you know, if I'd taken that with me all day long, I would have either like festered on it, still been angry about it. I let it go. So, yeah.
And that's the thing. And I think our egos can sometimes think as well, well, there's no point me apologizing to that person, because that person will still be angry with me. That person will think this, that person will. No, you can't possibly know what someone else is thinking. You can't possibly judge their reaction. So don't do that. Don't think about their perception of you and what it's going to be. No. That's not what's important, because that person might have turned around and gone, well, thank you very much for your apology, but I won't ever speak to you again in my street. Okay, that's the thing. But you've apologized, and that has made you feel better. And when they have calmed down, and in 3 weeks, they might start talking to you again, because they will remember that apology. Exactly. And that's the difference. Just do it. Just apologize for something if you have done something wrong, if you've hurt someone, if you've said something, if you, like you say, you know, just apologize. Don't think about what's going to happen at the end. You just do it in that moment, because my goodness me, it makes you feel so much better if it's genuine apology, and it will help them as well. I loved that thing about an apology is, that was it. An apology is a blanket for the soul. And it's so true. It was a blanket for your soul and for that person's as well. So the biggest mistake is not owning up to your mistake and to yourself and somebody else.
And the footnote to that story is that I apologized and everything was fine. He turned out to be worked in production, as in putting on shows and production. And I needed someone to help me do fashion shows or to some advice. And only through conversation, he said, oh, well, I do production. I do all these great big events and stuff like that. And I said, really, do you? And so he became quite a good person to know. And so that was the reward. I wouldn't have had that if I'd continued. We wouldn't have probably spoken again. He would have thought, well, that's a grumpy old neighbour down the road. I'm not speaking to him anymore. And I'm not speaking to him. But thank God I did that.
Exactly. So always do it, people. always shut that ego away. Ego is so bad for us. It's so bad for us, our egos. So just get rid of that. The ego wants to keep you safe and in the box. Forget that. Forget the perception. Just go and do it if there's something that you need to say sorry for. Right, that's it. That's the lesson over here at the end of the sermon. It's now time to do some lovely crafting. We've got some people who are watching us live as well, I can see.
Hello.
Hello. They haven't commented yet, but I know that they're there. Yeah.
They're listening. They're watching and listening.
They are. So, right then, lovely Gary. So today, now we over on Monkeys, and if you watch this in whenever, you'd always be able to go back to our Instagram grid and our Facebook grid and see the monkey motivation posts. Every February, I always host monkey motivation. And last year, I put up loads of pictures for things, people to do things. But this year, Gary said, why don't we do it as part of our tea time tutorial? Every Friday, we'll give a monkey motivation. So really, we do this every Friday, but we are theming it. So this one today, as I said, the joke is the Chijiri, we're not sure what it's called, but it is all about collaging. And so Gary has very kindly created a couple of templates for us, a tulip and a bird. If you want that, yes, and if you, as what?
A lotus.
With a lotus. I meant to say a flower. I don't know why I said a tulip, but if you would like to get hold of the lotus, and the bird for free, there you, yes, there it is right in front of me. You can, I knew it wasn't a tulip, you can by going to our website and downloading the free templates, and the link will be down below when I finish this video. But you don't have to download these templates, you could draw anything, but we are going to talk about how to collage, aren't we, Gary? Shall we go?
Shall we go? Okay, lovely. All right. So on my table, so I've got the images that you just explained, that it is a lotus. So we've got the lotus, or we've got a bird apiece, but we're going to have a magazine. So I'm going to just use magazine images. Yes, you could get, and this doesn't matter, if you pick up a magazine and instead of collaging, you get involved in an article or you're reading, that's fine. That's fine, because you can always go back to it. It's about just having some time. But when I pick up a magazine, especially one that I've read through and it's either going to go into recycling or whatever, what I'm looking for is pages of color. So I'm looking through the magazine and I'm looking for blocks of color. So lovely image here. I might, if I was myself personally, that image I wouldn't necessarily tear out, or I'd have that as an image just to save. But I look at images like this and I can see color. So I could take that out. And I've got several colors here. I've got a nice little block of red, so I can use that little bit for a color red. Can I start
ripping out some of my magazines?
You can, yeah, and I'll just talk through it. So we're going to cut, we just want some blocks of color, because what we're going to use is not the image, we're using the color.
The color, yeah.
The color. So I'm liking this sort of like this sort of goldeny color. I like the red color, this red. Like that. So I'm thinking on my image here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use bits of my colored papers. So I haven't had to go out and buy colored papers necessarily. I'm just using an old magazine and I'm just going through the pages and I'm looking for blocks of color, and I can collect enough of that color really. So if you're going, because we've got sort of spaces to fill out here. So I quite like the pink of this cottage down here at the bottom. So I'm going to just get that. And I'm going to take a little bit of that. And that actually would be quite nice. With my reds, I might have a tone of pink. So it can go quite tonal. I'm going to just tear out almost like largish sort of pieces at the moment, sort of that size, sort of stamp size, a nice large stamp size. And I'm going to start. So at the side of me, I'm going to start collecting little groups of colours. So I've got this lovely sort of mustard colours and oranges. So I'm going to put all those together. If you haven't got an old magazine, you might have some coloured papers. You might have some old envelopes or something like that. So I'm going to just put that together. I've got some orange. I'm going to collect some greens. So I've got my reds. I'm going to collect. So you can collect whatever you want. You can colour the lotus flower in however you want to. But I'm just going to go. I'll tell you what I'm thinking at the moment. So I'm thinking of sort of greens for the sort of outer petals, or sort of like where the bulb of the stamen is, and the sort of outer sort of bits there. So I'm going to collect a few little bits of green for that. I've got a yellow.
That's such a good idea, Gary, that you said there about grouping to colours, because I just started and then I was like, oh, what am I even working on? But as you say, you start to realise about grouping the colours together. You see, I've just come across some wonderful blues.
There you go. Yeah, so the blue, lovely. And you can have, like I said, look at tones of the blue as well. So I've got some nice sort of like tones of blue. If you sort of like, oh, I haven't got enough blue on that page, go through the magazine or several magazines if you're lucky enough to have some, and see if you can find some more blue. So I've just found across here, this lovely lady is wearing this blue denim jacket. So I'm going to just decapitate her, and I'm going to just take out her jacket, and I'm just going to tear around the blue. So I've got some blue color as well. So you're basically just sort of looking. And rather than cutting with scissors, the action of just tearing along with your fingers and just using your tips of your fingers just to tear around outlines is part of the relaxing sort of like mindful practice, that you're not just going chop, chop, chop with scissors. That's far too easy. It's about taking a bit of time and just tearing round those blocks of color. So I'm just going to have a look. What other colors have I got? I think I could do it just a little bit if I can find a little bit of more red or reddy colors. Oh, look, we've got a little bit of red, a little bit of pink there. We're using red here. Ah, there's red in this image here. So here, there's some buildings down here. So I'm just going to take out a little bit of that nice red there. Okay. How have you got on? Have you managed to get yourself a nice little... Yes, you have, Rachel. Look at that.
I have. I've got loads of blues. I actually want... Oh, I've just come across some more greens. Excellent. Now, I tell you, I was thinking which magazine... I was just going to go out and buy, to be honest, one of those, like, tea time magazines. They're about... I don't know how much they cost these days, but not one of the big glosses. I was going to get for one, like, a couple of quid. And then I found some food magazines that I had left. And I have to say, the food magazines are brilliant, because a lot of them, when they've been designing their photo shoots, they've sort of grouped their colours. So like I've just come across some pumpkin soup. So you've got loads of oranges.
Yeah. That's a really good idea.
And you've got adverts in there. So I've just come across a lady with a red dress. Brilliant.
And those are free to pick up. I love, you pick up for the recipes and the bargains and everything like that from the supermarket, their own magazine. But
I mean, we probably shouldn't talk about specific shops, but like Tesco, I'm sure they have a free magazine that you can.
Yes, they do.
So you could certainly just use one of theirs.
So you don't necessarily have to use your best coffee table magazines that maybe cost quite a few pounds to have. You could use the cheaper magazines and just use them for cutting up the color or for tearing up the color.
What I love about our tea time tutorials is the fact that quite often we'll sort of plan it, and then literally in the morning I'll go, do you know what, I know what we're doing, but I haven't even got my stuff together. And you go, well, all you need is this. And I'm able to go around my home as a non-artist. Oh, I found an amazing orange. Oh, I just found a happy monkey. How funny is that? Yes, certainly is a happy monkey in this house today. I just go around my house and just pick up, things from there. Right, I think I might have enough.
Okay, you got enough? Right, okay. So the next stage, so once you've collected, so let's bring this into camera shot. You've collected your little groups of colours. You need to think about how you're going to colour in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the middle, and I'm going to do one side. So I see it coloured in symmetrically, as in one colour in the middle, and then colours these two petals, and then these two petals, and then all the bottom down here. To actually stick it down, you've got a couple of things you could use. Really handy is a Pritt stick, glue stick. Pritt stick is its brand name, but glue stick general, and they're really nice. They're not too runny or wet. They work quite well, and you're going to glue the surface down. Or you could use, which I'm going to use some PVA. So you might have a little bit of PVA glue, and it depends, whatever you've got to hand. Even if you haven't got any glue to hand, you might be able to make up some flour, old-fashioned flour and water paste. You might be able to do, you can stick it down with that if you want to. I've just got a very old brush, and you can then, what we're going to do is, first of all, either with the glue stick or PVA glue, you're just going to paint in the section with the glue. So you're just going to cover the glue, not too runny and not too, but just going to almost run the glue in the area that you're going to first collage. Okay, so you're going to just put that in first of all. Then, say for instance, we're doing the middle. I'm going to do the middle red. So then you start just tearing pieces and just start almost like a mosaic, sort of like trying to fill in that space. So rather than filling in with a paintbrush or a felt tip or something like that, you're going to fill in with just tone color. Now, you could be really clever and start with dark at the top and light at the bottom, or vice versa. So if you've got a couple of tones of, say for me, I've got a couple of tones of the red, I can then start to think about where my tones are going to be. If you're using PVA, you can always, once you've glued a couple of bits down, you can always rub some glue over the top, so then you can stick some more down. So if you've got any gaps, you can fill a gap in with a small bit of torn bit of coloured magazine paper. If you're using the Pritt stick, like you are, Rachel, God, how far have you got? You seem to be getting on really quick.
I think I've done much bigger bits than you.
I think you have. Big chunky bits. So yeah, you can take your time.
I mean, know me. I always want everything done like immediately.
As long as we show the principle, and then everyone at home, or those who want to join in, can then just take their whatever time they've got. Could be over a cup of coffee, could be their lunchtime. It's something to do. And then I think the bit where you need to concentrate on is like when you're coming up to the edges. So I've drawn the edges of these little images, that is trying to get very thin slithers, really nice and neat up to the edges, rather than going over the edge or missing it completely. It's actually getting thin enough little slithers, and each petal is curved as well. So can you tear a curved slither? Yeah. So you can see I'm starting to like paint down. You carry on. I like your speed and your method, Rachel. It's going well.
Yeah.
I'm just going to continue with this, a little bit more of this darker red, and then I'm going to show that you can actually, like you could with tonal with coloured pencils and paints, you can actually then start to change the tone. If you've used almost like all the same colour for the top of each petal, then you can start then maybe do a tonally. I'm going to then turn tonal down into a slightly different colour red. Now you might not see this so well on camera. It might be something that's more appreciated when you look up at it, when you look up close. But that should look, and it just gives you a little bit of more thought and depth as you're creating it, that you're actually starting to think about the tone of the bits of torn paper that you're putting on. And if you look traditionally, it's a Japanese art of creating images. They are supposed to end up looking like watercolors. Now, that is when you've really practiced the art of this method of like collage with torn papers. But that's how, and as you can imagine, you know, with a lot of concentration, a lot of time, you could get it looking like that you've actually just blended tiny little tears of paper to start looking like it's painted rather than torn. So I'm going to apply your method now, big chunks of paper with one, in fact, just because I'm aware of time, we can, you know, you can take as long or as short time as you want to. That's looking good, Rachel.
You know what? I love this. This just take me back to sort of primary school, really.
But you know, I think we forget. There's that thing where you say, oh, you've got to realise your inner child. I think we forget to be that, like we were when we were younger, when we were young people, and life was so much less complicated, wasn't it? And it's because we had a different approach. You know, we weren't clouded with all the other woes and troubles that come with growing up older. So going back to doing something that you did when you were younger, hopefully you can realise what you had and where you should be now, as in rather don't make life make you overcomplicated. Let's make life a little bit more simpler, a little bit more thoughtful, a little bit more play. You can never have enough play.
Exactly. And it is just playing. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's just playing. It's just taking time out. And we don't give ourselves this time, you know, and we absolutely need it. You need to, you know, we're not designed to have all these, you know, these computers around us and this multitasking constantly in our lives. We're just not designed that way. And the body just gets completely stressed out. So you need to absolutely de-stress.
You do, definitely.
This is a great way.
I've done my, oh, I've got a gap in my red. I've got a gap. I've got to put something in there. I see a gap. I looked up, I might have moved it or something happened. I've lost part of my, I need another bit of red. Ah, there we are. I found a little bit of red in one of my little snippets. Right, there we go. Okay, right, so that's my centipede. But I'm going to now, I missed the cheats. I'm going to cheat. So anyone who's watching at home, because you can watch paint dry and it'd be quite relaxing. But I've almost like, I'm going to just swap this over like you didn't notice. Here's one I did earlier. So this is...
that's naughty.
You keep up with me, Rachel. So I'm going to continue doing this one. So I'll talk through it. So I've done the red like I did. So I've got the red in the middle. And this one, actually, I've done all one tone of red, whereas I'm trying to work on darker at the top and lighter at the bottom. Here I've done blue. So I've done this sort of more turquoisey blue to a more of a midnight darker blue. And then I've got this lovely orange with this mustard color here. And then I've done green down the bottom here, as I suggested. I've done this block green, which was from some old sugar paper that I've used this side. And then I've used some image, which has got foliage on it for the bottom where the bulb is here and the stem. So I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing, and which was quite nice with if you do use PVA, when it dries, it goes quite nice, almost like putting a varnish over it in a way. So if you do have some PVA, if you can get some, you can always paint over it afterwards, and it gives it just sort of like a glossy, harder finish to the piece. It might be something that you don't necessarily have to frame it, but it is something perhaps you can just keep, or you might start thinking about keeping a little sketchbook or something like that to start putting some of these activities that we do for our mindfulness on a Friday, our mindful artwork. So it might be something that you might think of later. I'm just going to start putting in. It's quite interesting trying to actually collage up against the other color, the other petal here, like you're starting to do, Rachel, and the other, but try not to overlap it as such to actually destroy the shape that you're trying to create. Yes. So again, that's what takes a little bit of thought and patience. And I think when I was first doing this, having a little play and just sort of coming up, sort of exploring the idea. I can't say I came up with this idea. I'm going to say I was exploring the idea. And I just thought I started off with very little bits of paper. But, it doesn't matter if you want to just use larger pieces. If you've got a larger surface to fill in, then if you want to, you can use it. I think it's that you respond or you adapt the process to whatever suits you. If you haven't got maybe a lot of time and you think, I just want that to be could do with it being a little bit quicker, or I want to just, maybe you're working with other people, maybe you're working with much younger people, and they might find the dexterity of tearing little bits of paper a bit difficult, then say, well, you could use larger pieces if you want to. You can always help them if you're with younger people as well, that perhaps the dexterity could help tear it up or show them how to tear, so they could practice on their dexterity as well, which is quite a nice thing to do.
This is a great thing to do with the kids, actually, isn't it? I mean, that's what I'll put in our Instagram post is, get the kids involved, get the grandkids involved. As I say, it's not costly. You can get any little food things, magazines for free, and just get them ripping paper. Because as we know anyway, it's really important for very little children to learn their motor skills and to work with their dexterity. So that is very important. So,
sorry, Rachel. I was just going to say, I'm just looking across at my diary, and it's telling me in my diary that we've got half term coming up here as well in this country, in the UK at least. Yes. I don't know in other parts of the world, but we've got half term, and in February it is difficult to try and entertainment. You can't necessarily, the weather can still be a bit inclement, and it can be like, I can't really chuck them out in the garden and say, right, go and play in the garden, or we'll go out to the park, whatever. So it's trying to think of things in February when you've got a school holiday, what you can do with young people that needs almost like entertaining or to keep them quiet. So something like this could actually, all up at the dining room table, they could all be doing this. Yeah, it's funny. I had a conversation with my sister. My sister runs she runs a couple of little youth groups, and she's always looking for activities for her, for her young, and they are real little ones. She runs a club called Rainbows, which is sort of even before you're a brownie. So and they're so little sweet, but she has to do sort of creative activities. So I said, oh, I'll send you these templates. They'll be perfect for your little youth group to use. Exactly. So if there's anyone out there that watches this and has got a youth group or something they want to get involved, want to use them, more than happy for, please. They're free templates that I've just literally drawn out, and you can use both these templates, both the lotus flower or the little bird. And you can use these in, if you run a youth group, you can use them for that as well, which is quite nice. But I'm going to start on the blue. I'm nearly there. I've only got 2 little bits to do, Rachel. How you're getting on well. Very good.
I think on I've prepared an Instagram reel where I've just put a little bit of footage of you doing this, and the voiceover, over the reel goes, "I'm loving this. I'm loving it." I said that's usually my exclamation whenever we do these things.
Yeah.
I was just about to say, I am loving this. I've never heard of chigiri. And
chigiri.
And chiriri. The thing is, it is about, I know we keep banging on about this. I really hope people will do these videos, watch them and do them, because I know it's that motivation to stop, because you can always think, oh, I've got to go do my food shopping. I've got stuff to do. I've got invoice to do. No, but it's so important, because I love our little Friday sessions. I keep saying this, but I do, because it just makes me stop for 20 minutes, and it's food for the soul. It's exactly. I would never sit here and do this normally. I mean, my daughter's 18 nearly now. I would have done this when she was a kid. And you stop doing these things when you're older. And it's like, no, do them for yourself.
And like you say, when your children start to grow up and they don't want to do this anymore, they want to go out with their boyfriends and girlfriends, and they want to hang out, where you think, oh, don't you want to sit at the dining room table and do a bit of drawing? No, Mum, I don't. No. But I also in my mind, I can picture someone, they're in the office, it's their lunchtime or their coffee break, and they just want to distract themselves with something. So just download the image, go to the printer, pull it out, and then just pick up a magazine from the staff room, get your Pritt stick out, and just spend a little bit of time just filling this in. It just is going to take your mind off of the stresses and the, that intensity of working. You can just do this. I mean, it's a nice thing to do.
And I just love it how what happens is, you saw me, I set off at the speed of knots, because that's what I'm like. I want everything done. So I set off really quickly. And now, as soon as you prompted me, I mean, you do teach me, seriously, whenever I do an exercise with you, I think, okay, I know, sticking bits of paper down, got it. And then when I'm in the lesson with you, I go, oh, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about grouping colours together from a magazine. I didn't think about starting with maybe a dark at the bottom and leading to a lighter at the top. I didn't think about that. And I learn with you all the time, which is, I'm very lucky. But that's why we're doing this, so that everybody can learn for free. But what's lovely about this exercise is that I start off at the rate of knots, almost going, come on, get it over with. Let's get this mindfulness over with. Let's give myself 20 minutes and get back to work. And actually, I lose myself in it. And then I start to really get creative with it. Then I'm like, okay, I'm really thinking about colour now. Yeah, right. I really want that there now. I'm really caring about what I'm doing. And that's fantastic.
Yeah. No, it's really good. It's lovely to hear that. And I know, we can all be like, right, I've got it. I'm going to go off and do it. And I think, again, that is the time that we live in. That is a sort of an approach that we have to a lot of things, rather than listening or thinking or taking time. It's like, bish, bash, bosh, that's done and dusted. I've completed that task. And aren't we in life find that we just, it's about just completing that task. No, I've done that. You haven't actually spent time in actually appreciating doing that task or exploring that task.
Exactly.
Or even playing with the task and experimenting. Because sometimes, I mean, exactly what I do is like, I might know the task and think that's how I'm going to appreciate it. But sometimes I have to stop myself and just say, no, just experiment, almost like do something different, do something perhaps like, well, wonder what would happen if I did this. And then you get some lovely new results. Now, if I didn't do that, I would just keep repeating the same thing. I would just keep, right, no, I know the process. This is how I'm doing it. And every time the same thing would come out. But if I stop and just take some time and think, do you know what? I might just try doing this and I'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And then new ideas come. So that's, for me as a designer and a creative person, that's sometimes what I have to do. It's all very well me saying, oh yeah, I know how that's going to work out. I'm going to do it this, which is fine if you want to keep repeating the same process. But for me, I have to keep finding new ways, new ideas, new things to do. So I have to physically sort of give myself more time, stop myself from just doing what I always do, and just say, I wonder what would happen if.
Yes.
If I did this, if I did that, put that with this, change the process, you know, did something slightly different. And then I think, oh, I quite like that. I like how that's turned out. That's nice. I mean, I'm not saying every time it does work out. Sometimes I think, oh, that's a load of rubbish. That doesn't work. But then again, that's called reflective practice, where you look at your experiment. And if it hasn't worked out, then you say, well, I don't know why it hasn't worked out, or don't do it again. But that's what being reflective as a creative person is. That's about looking at what you've done and then just either repeating it, improving it, or stop doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
How are you doing, Rachel? Oh, I've got to look at. Oh, Rachel, you're doing really, really well. I've just got the last piece to do on mine, which has just got one more bit finishing. Admittedly, I am Mr. Cheatsville, and I have cheated.
Yes, well, I'll stop there, because otherwise this YouTube will go on for 5.5 hours. But I have got all my bits, so I'm going to continue and finish my my flower. I shall show the close-up view.
That's nice. That's who mine. I've got mine close up. We can always I can do a still photo and send it to you, so you can put that up online for people to see close up. The other thing you could do, now we haven't used scissors at all, but what you could do with almost like just a plain piece of paper. Let me just see if I've got I can use that. So you could use a plain piece of paper, and you could literally, you could just cut this out. So I could, if I wanted, I'm just gonna get my paper scissors, excuse me. So I could, if I find, say for instance, you know, you might think, well, actually, if I cut it out, I could sharpen it up a little bit. So you could just cut around the outside.
Yes.
And then, especially when it's dry, it's probably not so good to do when it's wet. Let it dry. And then I could just like sharpen it up. So I'm going to just go round the outside. And then, and sometimes it might bother you that it looks, the edges might not have been as crisp as you want them to go, though that is part of the process, is to make them as crisp as possible. But if you just go around with your paper scissors and just go around outside, cutting it out. So either this image, or do try the bird with the flower. I think that's a lovely little image as well. And it might be it's the flower itself is more, you need to work more on it, where the wings of the bird, you could look at doing tonal, or you could look at trying to create sort of a feather effect using this, which is a whole other lesson probably.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm nearly there. I'm nearly around the outside. Right. Bear with me, everybody. I'm going round. As I said, when you do cut it, or if you do cut it out, my advice would be make sure it's dried before you do it, because trying to cut through wet glued image isn't always the best. But I've done it. Hurrah! I've done it. So nice clean piece of paper, and then you can think about mounting in the middle. So that could go in like that, or would it go portrait? So it could go. You could put it portrait. Give yourself luxury borders. So you could have a nice border at the bottom, you could have a border at the top. You could always write some words if you wanted to. You could write a little affirmation or something like that.
Yes.
For today's lesson, if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Lovely. So there you go. I still don't know how to say it. Chigiri, chigiri, iri. Is it chigiri, shigiri?
Shakira.
Whatever.
We're going to be together. Always get me singing and dancing in somewhere. Well, do you know something? It's interesting how yours is much more literal than mine. It's always that way, though, isn't it? But you know, yours is mine is like cobbled together. But I love it. I love all the different colours. And what I want to do now, actually, I'm going to abandon that pile of scraps, I think, because what I'm going to do is go back to a magazine. I've looked at my flower. What I really want is a hot pink,
Right.
and another colour. So I'm going to look for other colours to do my other leaves, tear those pieces out, go back, and then finish that flower off. So I'm going to spend quite a bit more time on it. And that's what we're saying about the creative process. It's about going back again and again and again.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you are watching this video, by the way, and you are interested in art classes, we have got some on the website. Now, we've got some starting, it depends when you see this video, because you might see it in April. We're starting in the middle of February with a Wednesday night live session with Gary, where you sit with us for an hour and a half and you learn, and you're on camera because it's on Zoom. So you're on camera so you can show Gary your work, and we have conversations like this the whole way through. But those classes eventually will be uploaded to the website, where you can go to the online shop and you can rent those videos. So then obviously you're not in them because it's a rented video, but you can watch the class as it happens. Very much like you have here, but it's a more in-depth version of our art lessons here. And of course, they are very different to what we're doing here. Bit more complex, but not at all complicated where you need to be an artist. So do have a look on the website, and I'll put the link for the online shop below, and also for Gary's live classes if you are coming to us and you'd like to come and join us live. But thank you so much, Gary, from our meeting when we planned out. Next week we're doing feathers. We're doing gratitude feathers. So we're going to be colouring in feathers and working with affirmations. And that's a lovely thing to do, because I think I always like it when I find a white feather, or I find a feather on the floor, because I just think it's like a message from above. You might think it's complete nonsense and it's a bird that's flown by and dropped one, but feathers are beautiful things. It doesn't matter where you've looked at from or why, they're just beautiful things. And I think that'll be a lot of fun to play with. So that'll be the next monkey motivation, which will be next Friday. I'm not sure if that will be live yet. We will decide. But if you hit the notification bell, then you will know.
You'll know exactly.
Or if we've uploaded.
And tag us in. Tag us, you know, do tag in with either Crafty Monkeys at Gary Mills Designs, hashtag monkey motivation. That is the hashtag for the month. It's monkey motivation. And yeah, a monkey, MONKIE.
Yes, monkey motivation. Don't do KEY. I think
you won't get nowhere.
When people put in CraftyMonkies, KEYS, I think it's a pottery shop in Wales. And so I suspect they've had a lot of phone calls with people going, do you do quilting classes? And they go, we're a pottery shop. What? So it's good.
Rachel? Can I speak to Rachel, please?
Who's Rachel?
Rachel.
Anyway, lovely, Gary. Thank you so much. Lovely YouTuber. Welcome. I know we've had some people, we haven't had anybody in the chat. I think you've got to have a Gmail account to do chat on YouTube, but I'm not quite sure. But if you want to leave any comments after this video, we'll always come back and answer them. Of course, if anybody wants to buy us a coffee, you can. The link is below. Donate to the channel. And it just means we can carry on. So that's it, but I will now end this. We will see you next time. But of course, if you want to watch any more from us here at Crafty Monkeys, you've got loads of tea time tutorials to be getting on with. So head to the playlist and pick from there. And of course, if you're a regular sewer, loads of amazing, amazing sewing videos. Thank you so much, Gary. And thank you to you.
Welcome.
Lovely YouTuber. Goodbye.
Bye.